Okay, hey everybody, I'm going to show you quickly the construction of this flip-flop file folder album. The first thing we want to do is square the edge of the folder, and I've just done that by mimicking this curve here with pencil, tracing this edge of the folder and then coming down. And then we're just going to open up and cut this away. And on this side, just going to cut into that little bit of a curve. And now come in with my cutter just to get a really crisp straight line, okay? And that piece we're going to discard. And now we want to fold the top to meet the bottom, and we want to try to get this absolutely as square as possible. So making sure those lines are exactly even on both sides. And we're going to use the bone folder to score. Now we're using a top tab folder, and that's important. You can use a bottom and it just you're going to turn it inside out, so if you end up with that way. And then we want to meet these edges to the dead center fold and square everything up again and burnishing very well with every fold. And then this side, and this is our new straight edge here, it's going to come up and meet the fold. So if we had that extra gap that we cut off, it wouldn't be square. So now we're going to have we're actually going to have 8 squares that are going to all be the same size, except for this little bit of overhang. And that's going to be part of our finished design. So we're going to cut away this panel, the one nearest to our tab, and then the 2 opposite. And this panel is going to remain as a flap. But we're going to save these, and they're going to go into the construction later. So it's hard to see this with the light I'm using for filming, but let's see. I think this is good. And I still need to cut this one. I think I'll just have to do that with scissors. And you could definitely use scissors. I just think it's easier to use the cutter. And then this is our flop panel, and we're going to cut it a little bit in this score line so that we have it, so that it just doesn't wad up in the creases of our finished book. So our basic construction is going to be, let's see, what we're going to do is on this first page, we're going to have a book that opens this way. On this page, we're going to have a book that opens this way. And then this is just a decorative flap. So I'm going to use this piece here to make my first book. I'll just make the cover stronger. And so I've tea-dyed some papers, and basically I'm just going to cut those down and fold them. And what I'll do is when I adhere the back to the folder, I will just adhere here so that I have a pocket, because it's always fun to have those little pockets. So that'll be the first book. I'm going to cut a window here in the flap, and this will be the second book, and it will fold like this. Okay, and I'm going to take this last piece, and I'm going to make another pocket on the front cover, just for fun, and just not to waste any of the material. Okay, now I'm going to take all these pieces and print them. First I'm gonna just cover them in some white gesso just to get a white base, and then I'm gonna do some gel printing. So hang in there. Okay, so like I said, the first thing I'm gonna do is come in with some gesso to just whiten up the background of my file folder. Now, if you're going for a vintage style, totally not necessary, but I'm gonna be printing with some beautiful PaperArtsy Fresco finish acrylic paints, and I just really want the colors to stay more true to life. So I'm gonna start with a base of white. This is a gel press 12 by, let's see, sorry, 12 by 14 printing plate. And that's not necessary, just use the one that you have. You can print in sections. But I'm gonna start by printing these smaller pieces, it'll just be easier. And I did put a lot of gesso on here, just thinking I can do this in layers. And I'll take some scrap paper to help push down without making a big mess. And I'm just printing both sides. And I can use this excess here, no problem. Oh, see, I'm getting some lift for whatever I was working on last, which I love. Don't be afraid to print in sections anytime. I mean, it's so great. You can pick up, the reason I wanted to use a larger printing plate was just so I could pick up those edges and get more bang for my buck in terms of how much effort I put into the printing process. And let me scoot those away, and then I'm gonna go in with my larger pieces and pick up whatever's left. Sorry guys, I have been really sick and I have bronchitis, so bear with me. Just gonna print up every little bit of paint that's left until I get this covered. And now I'm gonna go in and brayer a second coat of gesso, and I won't make you watch that, but basically you get the idea. I'm just gonna keep going until I get good coverage, okay? So here's my beautiful, oh so beautiful palette I've created by following the color wheel scheme that you can read about on the PaperArtsy blog. I have used butter of the Fresco finish chalk acrylics, candy floss, and Lake Wanaka. So I'm just so pleased with that. I did have to go a bit rogue, and I swapped out one of the main colors because I had an order issue. I just didn't do right. So it is a different version of blue than the aqua duck egg that other bloggers use, but it does give the same general feel. So now let's have some fun printing. And we're gonna pull back in. I'm gonna just put that palette to the side. I do have my palette knife ready, and I'm gonna bring back in my big boy gel press printing plate, and let's see if I can get this right on camera, and my dried gessoed file folders. So I'm just gonna make a very random use of, looking at the wheel, I'm gonna choose 3 colors, and I'm doing the tetrads theme, so I feel like I'm gonna go in this direction. And just to keep my just to keep my head on, I'm gonna go ahead and mark these colors. So I'm gonna go with this one and this one. Let's do it like this, and this one. I just think that will help me in the long run not to get confused while I'm pulling out my colors. Okay, so this so here we have, let's see, this is my original color, so this was the two of those mixed together, this green, and so it's just a little bit bluer than a perfect combination of Lake Wanaka and butter. And that's going to be pretty much a color, it's really a go-to color for me in general. So I think I'm going to put it as a very primary color on my printing. And I'm just going to use my palette knife here to get some of these colors onto the plate. And what I'm just going for is a very random background at this time. And the way I like to do when using contrasting colors is to use a small brayer. And I typically blend by starting with my lightest color, moving it around, and just, you know, spreading the love of that color around the plate. And then I will often just spray it off, and I'm just going to do that directly over here on my file folder. And then I'll go in with the next shade and work my way generally from the lightest color to the darkest. This is so pretty already. I just love it. I love these colors. Oh my goodness. And now I just really want to kind of fill in any of the gaps. But I want to avoid over mixing, okay? So I'm going to stop at this point. And first I think I'm going to go in with the largest piece. Now, I said before this was going to be my front, so I'm going to print on the back of that so that I get the front covered right off the bat really well. And then I can even go here and here, just to keep my hands from making such a mess like I did before with the gesso. Need to be careful and tear, I guess, towards that flap, not the other way. Oh, how beautiful. Oh my gosh. And now I'm just going to start the process over. I'm going to bring back in more of my colors. I can even try to stay in the same locations to avoid over mixing or getting like I'm not sure how to say what I'm thinking. This is a silicone mat I pulled out so I didn't get the table. I'm so terrible about getting paint all over the table. Okay. Then color number 2. I'm having to stand up to do this. And what I may do is go in with a paintbrush and just really get in those nooks and crannies. I think the palette I picked out is a little too big, and so the paint sort of gets lost. But a brush will give you a different look. If you might get brush lines. And I do want to paint over the entire plate. I will get a different print look this time because I'm going to have all that color underneath that didn't lift. And I think that'll be really cool. And I'm just going to braid it off. And go into this beautiful purple. Oh, what a beautiful shade of purple this is. Lavender, nice lavender. Now I'm going to go ahead and do the back side. And go this way. Okay, so we have that. In here, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull this section to finish that portion out. And I can check for any other gaps. Maybe here I can get a little more coverage. So that's that side. And then this one is covered on both sides. Oh, how pretty. So pretty. And then let's see. We have one more small section. Yep, and I just put that paper in the paint. Don't have to fill out quite as big of an area this time. Beautiful. Now I'm just gonna, while there's a little wet paint, I'm just gonna look around and make sure there's nowhere I want to add color on any of these spaces. So here maybe I could get some good color. Okay. Okay, now I've decided I really want to introduce a little more white to help balance. Even though these are pastel colors, it's very rich. So I want to bring in a good bit of white. And I'm going to do that by using my stamps in paints. And I'm going to keep a baby wipe here to clean my stamps quickly. And so what I'm going to do is take my stamp and use this side of the plate as an ink pad, let's just say. Okay, and then I'm going to clean it really well. While the paint is still wet, it's very important to clean the paint off. And I'm gonna just print those patterns, okay? All right, so introduced a little white here, and I'm gonna go in. These are different mini stamps by PaperArtsy. That first one is EM61, so cool, love that stamp. This one, EM64, and okay, I'm going to clean that very quickly. And then I'm going to go to let's go to our main piece. So again, we said this would be the front cover. So let's get some of this pattern on that front. Okay. And then maybe some of these flaps. And even I'm just going to go over here and try to just touch that center pattern. And that's what that looks like. So it's a reverse. And I can do that again here. Really cool. And then maybe just a little on this dark section here. I'm not touching the whole, just barely touching into that. Okay. And then let's try these smaller dots. This is EM58. Okay. And I am doing this in a pattern intentionally so that later I can go and pull a print with what's left to kind of get a ghost of these designs on this side. Okay, clean this down. I really should have a toothbrush handy for this purpose. That would be ideal. But the baby wipe works pretty good. And then I'm gonna pull some of these smaller dots. Okay. Not so much that time. I think it had dried, but we can still go in here because I did this very liberally with the Cloud 9, so that it. Oh, look at that! So cool. Okay, and I was thinking about using 48, but I think I've changed my mind. I think that's giving me enough, and I'm just gonna let this dry and save it for something in the future. Oh, no, I'm not. I was thinking I would love to use one of Tracy Scott's lace books, lace booklet number 4, and I've decided to just print portions of it. I'm gonna just dip my hands in my water reservoir here so I can tear this apart. Carefully. This is the piece I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to save the other side for later. So while we have the gel press still good and painted up, I want to print onto my lace booklet. I wanted to also say this is a great time to get you a rag and make you a little painty rag that you can use maybe in some future art projects. It could be pages of books. You could tear it into ribbon. And so while you're using the palette knife, it's a great time to clean off with a rag. Okay, and then a little bit more purple I mixed. Okay, good. And I'll just spread that. Then let's spray her off. I'm going to try to go over here a little. Okay, so just going to print on the one side. But I can definitely bring in this card and do some lifting of that center design. It may or may not create pattern for me since the colors are so similar. It doesn't show that well, but there, got a little bit. That's super cool. And maybe if I did this blue and purple here on this more orange, design, it would give me a good impression. Yep, so really cool. Okay, I want to make sure I press this very good. Oh, wow. Look at that. How cool. And I'm going to just take a little more Cloud 9. This is what I'm saying is white. White. I'm just going to lift some of these undercolors that were left behind. So see, I didn't really get good coverage, didn't press down quickly enough. So I'm gonna try to lift that. There we go. How pretty. So pretty, so pretty. Okay, and then one more section here needs a little love. Okay. So how pretty is that? And I think that's all for my printing at the moment. And I'm just going to leave this on my plate so when I come to print again, I'll get brand new surprises with what dried paint I have on my plate. Okay? Okay, guys, I had one more idea, and it was that I should make some sort of closure for my book with this painted fabric that I've been using to clean off my palette knife. So since I'm almost out of my paint the mixed colors, I did want to say I'm spritzing with water this palette so I can make sure everything doesn't dry, because this process does take a little bit longer than some things could. So this time I'm just gonna use paint brushes to get into these nooks and crannies of my palette and get whatever remaining paint I can. Okay, and I've just picked out 3 paint brushes for that, so I don't have to try to wash them in between. Just make this quick and easy. And okay, and then the final color, this gorgeous yummy lavender. I just love it so much. I'm so glad I chose this variation in this Tetrad's palette I've created. Okay, so I'm still gonna go in and brayer. Oh, my brayer got stuck. Okay. This is a little bit different because you can see the water that I spritzed in wanting to bubble the paint, and I think that's going to be okay for the fabric. So that's what this means when you see paint beginning to separate. So if you use really cheap paint, a lot of times you'll see this happening, and the reason is the water content. And the only reason I'm getting that with my PaperArtsy Frescoes is because I spritzed with water. It's not because of the water content. They have really amazing properties that don't give you that look, which is why they're my choice for gel printing. Oh, wow. Look how cool. So I'm just going to cover a little here and there. And then I think I'm going to dye this in an ink bath. I don't know. We'll see when I tear it up, because what my idea is that I'm just going to create some small ribbon. So I'm going to just snip into the fabric and tear off a good strip. So that's my piece of ribbon, and I might just go along and do several layers until I get the one that makes me happy, okay? Because it might be more into the middle than on the edge. Okay, and I can even stamp on that with some of these. You know, I could definitely bring in some of these dots and stamp onto the ribbon, okay? but then I'm automatically guaranteed to have a coordinating closure, and basically for free, just recycling this ribbon. Okay guys, I've got my book all dried, and I'm going to talk a little bit just about the basic assembly. So like I said, I'm going to have this book come out on either side, so it's kind of a flip-flop. In the center, I'm going to first cut this part here to make a tag shape. So I'm going to clip off this side and then use it to line up on this side and cut an evenly spaced tack topper. Okay, and then I'm going to just use a die cut here just to get a shape. I mean, you could use anything. I'm not going to die cut, I'm just going to use it to trace a circle. So I have a little window. Okay, and then that's going to be cut out so that when this flap opens and closes, I'll have some imagery here. And then on this side, like I said, I had these tea-dyed book pages, and the way that I dyed these was I made some very strong tea and put it in a long glass pan, and then just one by one submerged the pages and then let them all lay out to dry. So for this first section, this is going to be the book. So what I want to do is, I could definitely, if you'd prefer, you could do some waxed linen in a needle and do a 3-hole, the 3-stitch binding. But what I've decided is I'm just going to staple with my stapler. Okay, so I can burnish this nicely. And I just feel like that's just going to be a very finished look on the edges, because I did remember I said I wanted to have a closure. So I felt like having the thread tails might be in the way. So I'm going to adhere this down. Excuse me. I will say that I cut this section so that it doesn't, because of the thickness of it, it didn't fold very well if it was too close to this. So, and I did the same thing on this side. I just cut here a little bit. And so I've got my pages prepared for this side. And I'm going to staple those in place as well. Just gonna line it up. Just eyeball it. Making sure all that's folded in the right place. And I'm gonna staple it again. And I'm definitely keeping the staples going inward, so the end of the staples will finish in the center of the book pages. Right, so that when I also did that one off, I'll just take that out. And that's okay. It's just hard to see with the camera above me. It's hard to really see from back here. And I could just flatten those out and they just kind of add to the distressed look. Let's do that one more time. Okay. Okay, that's better. And so, excuse me, what I was going to say is now that's finished there, and I don't have to worry that that's jagged here on the outside. Okay, so that's, these two sections are ready, and then this one is going to be on this side. So what I'm going to do is take some heavy glue. Let's see, I think this one's dried out, sorry. I've just been moving some things around, so I'm losing things from myself. So this is tacky glue. Okay. I'm just gonna just do the edge. This is gonna create a pocket for me. Okay. And then I'm gonna be careful to line this with this straight edge. Okay. And of course the top and the bottom, nice and even. And then we have that little gutter. Okay. Gonna just open everything up and press very, very firmly. Okay, so now I've created a pocket. I might put some binder clips on that. And so once again, the book's gonna fold this way and this way. And here's my front cover. And I'm gonna make another pocket. And this time I'm gonna leave the top open because I think I would like a tag that can just pop out. So I'm just gonna adhere these two sides. And that might take a little work. And I might actually need to go back and reinforce that with some red line tape. But for just the video purpose, you get the idea. Okay, so our front cover, and we have this pocket, and then this pocket, book pages coming this way, book pages coming this way. That's just for journaling. And then our little window I'm gonna cut here. So that's the basic construction, and now I'll just enjoy decorating and I'll come back with a flip through, okay? Okay guys, I've got with my stamps, I picked out a couple of Sara Naumann stamp sets, these awesome new birds, and one of the owls, and this other silhouette stamp, ESN 64, and then this one ESN 66. And I'm gonna just show you my finished book. I added a little bit of music page and then some stamping, and I used, let's see, Dusty Concord Oxide, the tea dye, and the evergreen to do a little watercoloring on this image, and then I did my main stamping with the Versaclear. So we've got our original tab. I adhered some ribbon here to the front and the back to make the closure, and I made an inky tag here with layers of the Tracy Scott book page, and I just did some journaling and stamping. So that's the front pocket, and you'll see here the little pieces of all that lace book that I incorporated. I did stamp the fabric using the oxide pad to give it some texture with one of the mini stamps 58. And then we open it up, and let's see, we have the two-sided flaps. I did a little bit of journaling and highlighting with a white uniball and some more of that lace book here and here, and then even the center page, and then I made a transparent flap. I die cut a piece of vellum, so that comes down, and some more stamping and book page, and then we have the two little hidden notebooks, just with lots of tea-stained notebook paper. So I'm going to do a little quote strip here from one of the stamp sets. So all this is just with the two stamps and then the few backgrounds, 64, 61, and 58. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this tutorial and are inspired to do some gel printing and stamping of your own. Appreciate you watching. Thanks.